Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Matt. And on this show, we like to chat with the nonprofits that we come across, highlight the wonderful work that they're doing, and meet the individuals that are running the mission behind the scenes. And as a reminder to our listeners, Charity Charge, we are a financial ally to nonprofits. We offer expense management solutions, corporate cards, bookkeeping, and accounting. And so if your nonprofit needs assistance in any of these areas, please do reach out to us. That's what we're here for. Today, I am joined by the CEO, Executive Director of East Boston Social Centers, Justin Pasquarello. Justin, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you, Matt. Doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Appreciate you being on the show and very excited to learn about the wonderful work that you're doing with East Boston. But before that, just wanted to get to know you a little bit and your background. What kind of set you on the path into the nonprofit sector and the great work that you're doing today?
Yeah, I spent my whole career in the nonprofit sector, other than working at my father's pharmacy when I was in high school, pretty much. What led me to it was I was in foster care. I was adopted when I was 9 years old, and I took a class in community organizing in my senior year in college and knew that I wanted to do something to help support youth in foster care. This class required a 10-hour a week kind of service commitment. And so, as part of that, I started the research and found there was a need for mentoring for youth in care. Ended up founding a mentoring organization for foster youth, where I'm still on the board and been in the nonprofit sector ever since.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. And yeah, I didn't mean to undercut your experience. You've founded your own nonprofit. You serve on the board of several, and you've been manning the ship over at East Boston Social Centers. Can you tell me a little bit more about that particular organization where you currently serve, its mission and your involvement there?
East Boston Social Centers has been around since 1918, or perhaps even longer, depending on how you look at it. So, we were founded as part of the settlement house movement, where people moved into cities to help welcome newcomers to the United States through being pioneers in public health, social services, and early education. So, that was our origin. Over time, several settlement house organizations merged together, and over time, we became a more community led organization, but we continue to be closely connected to those roots. Our intended impact is to be a catalyst for community, belonging, and joy in East Boston, which is a neighborhood of Boston and surrounding communities. And we do that both through serving as a hub in the community that brings people together around shared goals. So we lead the Every Child Shines work to help all kids in East Boston enter kindergarten ready to learn, joyful, and thriving, because we know that kindergarten readiness makes a huge difference across the full lifespan. And then we also do direct service programming for people from birth to old age. So early education and school age programs. We have a teen program where we teach science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, a workforce and leadership program where the teens work in the early education classrooms, and an older adult program, so we're with people throughout the full lifespan, and we build connections across the lifespan by bringing people from those programs together as well.
That's fantastic. Really fostering a healthy community from start to finish there, it sounds like.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Yeah, on this show we do like to talk about, the wonderful missions, but there's always two sides to a nonprofit in that there's, the mission that you're focused on and there's the back office administrative side of things and hopefully the two are working together, but sometimes there can be imbalances and one can get in the way of the other. What's your experience been like with this particular nonprofit as far as, yeah, running behind the scenes, working with the board, working with volunteers and staff?
I feel very fortunate overall. I arrived here just over 8 years ago. My predecessor had been here for 34 years, and he had helped to build a team that worked pretty independently and but also work together. So I have people who do really great work on the operational side and the finance side, and give me space to work on vision with them and the external relations. I think working across functions, there's always going to be some different perspectives and some disagreements, but also those are opportunities to make us collectively stronger. And that's what I've seen here.
Absolutely. In your 8 years, well, first of all, had you been involved with that nonprofit before coming on into a leadership role?
I hadn't been. I actually didn't even know who we were. So East Boston Social Centers is located in a pretty central location, or the building that I'm in is in a pretty central location in East Boston. We have four different locations that we're in, and I'd gone past this building many times. We had some beautiful murals on the outside, but I didn't actually know what happened here. So I got to learn
Wow,
when a friend who had worked here told me that they were looking for their next executive director.
wonderful. No, it really sounds like you've been on a nonprofit journey for the majority of your career here. Let's go back a little bit. What was the very first nonprofit that you worked with in a leadership role?
Yeah, it's now called Silver Lining Mentoring. I founded the organization. So it's an organization that helps young people to flourish through committed mentoring relationships and the fostering of essential life skills.
Wonderful.
I incubated it under another nonprofit, Mass Mentoring Partnership, and then we brought it to be an independent organization.
And yeah, what did you learn from starting a nonprofit from scratch? I mean, obviously that you utilized a parent nonprofit to kind of begin it, but yeah, it's kind of it's a unique opportunity to speak with folks that actually started their own nonprofit. What was that like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely a great way to learn a lot. So I think one of the most important things that you hit on there is that it was really important to listen and just gather a lot of information from people. So as I was getting started, asked for advice, was fortunate that a few other people had founded nonprofits in my university, and we had a dean of public service who gave some really great advice, my professor, and helped connect me with other people. And so I was starting a mentoring program for foster youth. I had been in foster care and had been a mentor, but it was just my personal experience. So I was able to connect with other experts in the foster care field, the mentoring field to better understand what was needed, and in the nonprofit field. And one of the things that they told me was, I think many people starting a nonprofit focus on developing the entity, but that actually takes a lot of bandwidth and the administration can take a lot of bandwidth. And the most important thing to do when you're starting is to focus on the work, to focus on proof of concept. So I was really fortunate that Mass Mentoring Partnership let me start out as a program there. We incorporated the other entity, but we could focus on the programming to start.
That's wonderful. And from there, you served with that organization for many years. Is that right?
Yeah, I was there for 6 years before I went to
Yeah.
graduate school.
Gotcha. Okay. Wonderful. Yeah, I'm just when it comes to we're either manning a nonprofit that's been around for a while, starting your own nonprofit. One thing we do talk about is you're always serving some kind of a community. In the case of East Boston Social Centers, that's exactly what it's doing. How important is it to really understand the needs of the community that you're serving, and also making sure that the organization itself is run by either a board or staff that also understand those needs, or maybe are even members of that community?
Yeah, I think that's essential, and that's been part of my whole journey. So, having that lived experience in foster care when I was starting Silver Lining Mentoring, I talked with others who ran mentoring organizations for foster youth. Once talked with someone who ran a really great organization, but we had started a program where the mentors had that lived experience in foster care as well. And the person asked me the question, "Can you find good mentors who've had that experience?" And the answer is definitely yes. There were many. So I think that lived experience, helps us to see ourselves differently, to come in not as kind of trying to rescue or seeing those who were serving as victims, but really being in partnership with people toward the shared goals that we have. And I would say that that's true here at East Boston Social Centers. We have a parent partner program where we have 16 parent partners who speak typically six languages, come from eight different countries of origin, and help us to most effectively reach other parents in the community because I think they know most what parents like them need and how best to help to deliver that to parents. And our
Hmm.
board also has people who grew up in these programs, and pretty much almost everyone on the board either grew up in East Boston, works in East Boston, um, or lives in East Boston today.
That's fantastic. Yeah, no, it really does sound like that you have the needs of the community at heart because you've experienced those needs yourself. The same can be said of the other individuals that work at this particular nonprofit.
Yes.
How reliant on volunteers is East Boston Social Centers?
Volunteers are very helpful, but primarily our work happens through our paid workforce.
Hmm.
So we have a great volunteer board of really dedicated, talented people. We have had volunteers help with ESL instruction at times, but we currently have staff who are delivering the ESL instruction. And I think there are other opportunities for volunteers that we could have going forward, but also we know that to do volunteering well requires special capacity as well. So
Hmm.
we're in a strategic planning process now. One of the things that we want to do is enhance those connections with people across the lifespan who we might be less connected with in the community now. And giving people opportunities to volunteer is a great way to do that. But I feel like we'd have a dedicated
Gotcha.
staff person to help us do more of that.
Gotcha. Oh, that's great. Yeah, another thing we like to just kind of touch on, yeah, when it comes to a board, it sounds like yours is very committed, very involved. In what ways, as a nonprofit leader, do you make sure that you're regularly engaging your board and making sure that they know that the mission is humming along, they know that what's expected of them, and that they have every opportunity to serve as board members.
Yeah, we have a pretty engaged board, and one of those is just regular meetings. We meet generally 7 times a year. One of those is a retreat that happens in person. During the pandemic, we moved toward more virtual meetings, but I do think having that mix of in-person meetings is really helpful because there's a different kind of connection and engagement when we're able to meet in person, even though it can take a little extra logistical work for people to do that. Our board joins us for our annual holiday party with our staff and helps us to celebrate and recognize the staff in other ways, attends our annual event and welcomes people as ambassadors. And then we have very active committees who we work closely with. So some of those committees are meeting just about monthly and then doing other work besides that as well.
Wonderful. Now, another thing we do like to talk about fundraising and innovation surrounding fundraising. I know that's obviously a big thing in the nonprofit sector. Many nonprofits rely on a mix of grants, donations, and earned revenue. Does your organization rely on such grants? What strategies have kind of worked best for your organization for diversifying your funding?
Yeah, we currently about 70% of our funding comes from government, from federal, some of which passes through state and then local as well. And we have increasingly diversified beyond that from the time when I joined as well. So that although 70% is still a lot, it's a lower share than it had been. We've done that partly through growing the development team and the specialization of that team. We've had the opportunity to do some pretty innovative work, particularly in our Every Child Shines work. So we got a federal grant as part of that. Historically, more of our funding was through contracts. And then we've been growing our foundation work. We've grown the foundation team. So I guess definitely staffing is an essential part of this. And then identifying the key constituencies who would be most engaged and interested with the work that we're doing. As an organization that's been here for 100 years, we have many alumni. It's always fun to meet people in the community and mention where I work and have them tell me how they grew up in our programs or even met their spouse in our programs. So that's one big opportunity we've been pursuing is increasing that alumni connection and
Hmm.
engagement. East Boston is a community that continues to have a growing population. There's been a lot of new waterfront development here. So connecting with some of our newest neighbors who might want to get more engaged with the community and give back. And then the other big group that we think about are people who want to do innovative work. So while we're working locally in this community of East Boston, we're doing work that is relevant far beyond here, I think. So we've been very actively involved in a coalition working to help all kids have access to high quality, affordable early education and care taught by teachers who earn a wage that they deserve and have opportunities for funders to support us in improving staff wages and then partnerships with researchers to help measure the impact of that. I think those research partnerships are really helpful. Our Every Child Shines work is a collective impact informed approach that has been really leading in the city and demonstrating ways that we can better support kids and families and centering the feedback from the community. We have an annual convening with generally about 100 people from across a variety of organizations and with parents helping to inform the most important strategies to move that work forward. So being able to share that thought leadership is a way that we've been able to bring new supporters in as well.
Wonderful. Yeah. It does sound like you have a very, diversified approach to fundraising. We talk to nonprofits that really do measure their impact and make sure that the general public is aware of that impact, and then also focusing on the individual, the storytelling side, an individual that has benefited from your program. Um, does your nonprofit utilize storytelling to kind of draw attention to your mission and perhaps help find potential donors that want to help based on the sharing of those stories?
We definitely do. And I think those stories provide a lot of energy and inspiration for our staff as well. So I think about a family that came to us where we had the child as an infant in our program, and a teacher identified a concerning bump on that child, and it turned out that the child had a tumor. And so we brought that to the attention of the parents, and through the support of community members, we were able to maintain that child's spot so that they could return to our program after they had healed. But we were also able to connect with the family and provide support around basic needs at a time when the parents needed to be with the kid and couldn't work as much. The families needed some help navigating the healthcare system. We were able to support them around that, and then also the parents had some workforce needs, and we were able to support them around that as well. So it's been really wonderful to see that child thrive and recover fully from the cancer, and to be able to be there supporting that child. We have people who grew up in our programs and who've even been in our programs for generations. The director of our school age program, when I first started here, was working at our front desk and had grown up in our programs, had been a participant in that. His family has been involved in the programs, and it's really exciting to see the innovative work that he's doing. Wonderful field trips that they've led this summer to a variety of cultural institutions in Boston, and innovative work using evidence based instructional technology to help ensure that not only did we not have increased learning gaps over the summer, but we were able to have children have academic gains while really enjoying the summer program.
That's fantastic. Again, I mean, it's really amazing that this organization can provide assistance from virtually every angle, from medical assistance to workforce assistance. And it makes me hope that there are more nonprofits serving communities like yours in other parts of the United States. I know that there are. Does your organization communicate or collaborate with any other similarly mission aligned nonprofits in other parts of the US or elsewhere? Or is there a network that you're involved with?
We do, and there's certainly more networks that we could join as well. But here in East Boston, we're really fortunate to have a very vibrant nonprofit ecosystem. And so through our Every Child Shines work, we convene many of those organizations, and we have partners who've worked with us for decades in this work. So we have, for example, in Every Child Shines, we have an early learning action team dedicated to helping ensure the educational quality and the support for the ecosystem to help kids thrive. And the person leading that is with Head Start here in East Boston and has been an active member of these collaborations going back decades. We work really closely with our neighborhood health center here, which is a real innovator in terms of addressing social determinants of health, and we refer back and forth to each other a lot to meet the needs of families. So definitely focus on those collaborations here, but also across the city of Boston during the pandemic. There was a real kind of moment of crisis for the early education and care system. A lot of concern about how best to support kids, how to help parents go back to work in a time when people were worried about what the risks might be. And the early education system went back to in person far before any other programs really were. And we developed really strong peer support. We continue to talk every month with this group and have been able to partner with the city of Boston on some really great innovative work to support young children and support programs like ours to help develop our workforce. I'm part of a state association of early education and care providers. So, yeah, really grateful for all the people I get to collaborate with in this work.
Yeah. You mentioned the pandemic. It was Yeah, such an interesting time on all fronts, and it does sound like some strategic pivots needed to be made. Are there any practices that you've adopted as at the time was a strategic pivot that moving forward now that we're out of the pandemic on the other side of it that the organization has just adopted as like this is now how we do this?
Yeah, it's a great question. Is so we the parent partners who I mentioned are part of our family engagement network, and it provides welcome baby visits to community members regardless of need. There's kind of no criteria other than being in the community. Developmental screenings called ASQs to help connect children with the resources they need to be developmentally on track. Play groups, and those had historically all been completely in person. And during the pandemic, we went virtual with those to ensure that families could continue to have access to those. And so now we're hybrid with those. We give families the choice about the best way to support their needs. Our family engagement network meeting, which brings together a variety of community partners to share resources and help to support our community, is virtual. That's going to be moving to some in person again, but we do find that that hybrid provision of support is really helpful for reaching people, both because we hear many in the community want to connect live and in person, and that's really important. And others just aren't able to, so they can still access what they need by having that virtual
Yeah,
programming.
that's great. Yeah, it makes sense just to have the option. Practically everyone knows how to operate Zoom now, and it's funny to say that now, but prior to the pandemic, it was just a different world, and that wouldn't necessarily be such an obvious option to have. Digging a little deeper into tools and practices when it comes to either financial systems, tools, or practices that have made a big difference in helping your team operate more effectively. What comes to mind there?
Partly that there's more work to do. So we have a director of finance who joined us earlier this year and is doing an outstanding job. And as he's just gotten to know all the systems and everything, we've identified that we do want to update our database. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that we were kind of able to maintain the steady state first. But that's something that we're going to be looking into. Yeah, on the kind of payroll and HR management, I think that's something that we're always working to try to improve the experience for staff.
Mhm.
And we've been really interested recently in how we can use AI within the organization. So I think we are finding a wide range of levels of engagement, concern, interest, and I can relate to all of that. And the perspective that I'm bringing to this that I think people are many of them share in the organization is that there are some real risks, there's some real areas of concern, but there's also a huge opportunity for impact. So we're trying to ask, how can AI help us to do more to better serve people, to improve programming, and to improve the kind of administrative support? And I've been finding some of the things like being able to do some deep research around, for example, the impact of recent policy and funding changes has
Mhm.
been really helpful to just give some background and help us prioritize some actions that we would think about. And then we're also thinking about, what is AI going to mean for the people who we work with in this community? So as we're working with people in after school programs or older adult programs, what are the tools that we should be giving them to be able to use it in positive ways? And also, what are the ways that we want to help them to be ready for things that might be more harmful
Mhm.
and to protect themselves from it? And I know you didn't just ask about AI, but just the other thing I'm thinking about with this is we're trying to catalyze a joyful and tight knit community, and technological change may sometimes lead to more isolation. So we're also thinking, how do we help people to continue to connect and build strong relationships and feel connected to purpose in a time of technological change?
Absolutely. No, I think that that's a very wise approach. As technology, specifically AI, comes more and more to prominence, it's definitely wise to see how it can be utilized to further your mission, but be wary of the fact that it absolutely can be isolating, and especially with a mission like yours to to foster a healthy, connected community. That makes absolute sense. Speaking of the future for either your organization or nonprofits in general, it does seem like the landscape is shifting a little bit as far as funding opportunities, et cetera, without getting too much into that.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, what kind of financial or operational shifts do you think nonprofits will need to make in order to stay strong and sustainable, within the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think it varies kind of significantly by the type of work that nonprofits are doing. So I know among those we work with, there've been really varied levels of financial impact from recent changes. We've been fortunate to be pretty resilient so far, but we know some community members are going to be facing some new challenges going forward that we're going to be needing to respond to. Well, I think it is a moment where we're going to be focused more on funding outside of federal funding for a period of time. But at the same time, I think nonprofits should be thinking not just about the immediate, but thinking about what would be the future partnerships that we might be forming. So we might need to increase our flexibility in the way that we think about our funding models. Yeah, find the immediate funders for certain things, but also be thinking about how would we package this in a different way for a different funder that might help scale it.
Mhm.
I've read this idea that it's a chaotic moment in certain ways in certain parts of the nonprofit sector, but it's not that things were totally perfect before. So it's also a moment where we can be thinking about reinvention and thinking about what does a better future look like, developing those models and approaches and being ready to bring them to a broader scale as financial circumstances change.
Mhm.
I think an opportunity that we all have is to return to trying to engage more people in individual giving. The data has said that individual giving has become more concentrated among those with the greatest wealth, and fewer Americans are giving. And I think that's unfortunate because I actually think part of the way we can all live into our mission is by giving everyone in our communities an opportunity to give back.
Mhm.
Our motto at the social centers is when all give, all gain. So it can be more work, but I think it's really important for us to give those opportunities for more people to connect. And one other opportunity I'm thinking about that I don't want to overstate the magnitude of this opportunity, but some people are going to have some pretty significant tax reductions coming up. And there are also going to be reductions in funding for some essential programs and services. And those kind of net out. There is an opportunity for people to consider giving their tax cut back to
Mhm.
invest in things experiencing cuts. So something I'm trying to find ways to advocate for. It
Yeah.
will obviously be an individual choice. It's not going to make up the full magnitude of what is lost, but it could do something.
Absolutely. No, that's very insightful. I had not thought of that. Um, in what other ways can our listeners support your mission, or at least learn more about what you're doing and get involved?
Thanks for asking, Matt. I really appreciate that. Well, as I said, we're trying to significantly increase joy in our community as well. So we do have a blog and a LinkedIn newsletter about that. So if you look up my long name, Justin Pasquarello, and look up LinkedIn newsletter, you can subscribe, which we'd love to have you join. And then East Boston Social Centers is EB, so E for East, B for Boston, Social Centers, all one word, .org. So it's another
Excellent.
to learn more.
Absolutely. We will make those links available. Justin, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. You really have provided some wonderful insights, and thank you for sharing your story. Just a final question: as a nonprofit leader, and really nonprofit leader expert, just with your background here, if you had a megaphone to reach every nonprofit leader out there, what might you say to them?
Um, let's see. That is a big question, Matt, and I like it. Thank you. I think this for many of us, it's a time of uncertainty, and something that I've been reflecting a lot about recently. I was once at a conference where people talked about giving everything you can toward the future you want to see without being attached to the outcome. And it honestly didn't fully make sense to me then. I thought, how can you not be attached to the outcome? Like, doesn't that motivate you and push you forward? But I think in a moment where many of us might not actually be able to see the full way to get to the outcome that we want to see in the world, sometimes the best thing we can do is just put one foot in front of the other, um, and be patient with each other and understand that people are facing challenges in this moment. And so that it rings true or rings useful in a new way for me, that idea of if we all give everything we can without being too attached to the outcome, we might actually get further and one day get the outcome that we're seeking.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for this. Yeah, again, this is invaluable to us and our listeners. And we wish you the very best in all of your endeavors. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks for the opportunity, Matt. I enjoyed it.